I'm sorry to hear. Also, Nathan, I don't mean to jump off topic. That was a very serious thing, and I would love to talk more about it with you. I did just hit start on the stream, so I didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to keep like private or whatever. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you, dude. Um, yeah, real quick, we are jumping in. I'm gonna go ahead and make that post on Twitter to see if we can't bring some people in. Wait, I'm sorry, I missed the last thing you said. Of course, gotta be. Either that or maybe Leanna. Oh, there are 5 people. It was Tom Spencer. Hello, Tom Spencer. It's good to see you. Welcome. We are actually doing a micronational citizenship training today, like a how-to. We're joined by Press Noble Nathan from the House of Others. And we are going to be joined by Master Stephen Gray of the House of Others as well. The House of Others is primarily directing the primary action that we're going to be dealing with as far as citizenship, as far as growing our citizenship and defining that further. So I'm going to kind of talk about everything so far and where we've come with that, and kind of go through for both Stephen and Gray, no, Stephen and Gray, Gray and Nathan, as well as for the rest of you all, kind of what Aeternian micronational citizenship looks like, how that's working, and then as well some things about general citizenship. As well, Gray, it seems like your mic is like echoing. Let me see if I can jump in. Oh, is that better? Did it work? Oh. Ooh. Hmm. Okay, he jumped out. Because I was trying to mute it, but it wouldn't let me mute it. Hey, okay. Ooh. Hmm. I'm also confused. Okay, well, we're gonna jump into the slideshow real quick. So let me start to pull that out, and then we will get started. First off, I appreciate everybody being here as well. I want to go through some questions and stuff, but oh gosh. Gray, can you mute yourself? Okay, fantastic. So we are going to be jumping in. Let me make sure everybody can hear me all right. Hey, fantastic. Seagots, Tom Spencer, Edwin Portillo, it's good to see you all. I am trying to make sure that we are focused in completely on the meeting here. Our stream seems to be in a little bit of a weird spot as well. So I'm going to fix that. And then, as I said, we will be getting started. There we go. Okay, and then it says your stream's still running. Hey, fantastic. Okay, so now everybody should be able to see that. Please let me know. Somebody please check and see. Ooh, Gray says, hey, he can hear us but has no mic. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to jump in. I would ask everybody to please let me know if you can see the slideshow I'm presenting on the stream. If you can't, I'll go in and fix that. But I want to make sure that everybody's able to see what we're doing. Get into full screen. And all right. Well, there we go. Perfect. Let me see if I can drag this guy down. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that last part. Gray, is your audio good now? Hey, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to jump in. This is an introduction to citizenship in the Empire. So one of the first and most vital things to cover, of course, is what is citizenship. Now, this is going to be a broad definition. It's actually a definition that I got online from Wayne State University. I believe it's in Minnesota or something. Oh, Detroit. Hey, thank you. In Michigan. Yeah, absolutely. First off, Nathan, can you see the slideshow? All right. Okay, fantastic. Are you able to see it on the stream itself? Yeah, on YouTube. Because I want to make sure I'm not goofing and every. You can't see it? Oh, gosh. Okay. Hold on. Let me see what's happening. All right. Well, I'm going to just jump onto there then. All right. I'll do this. I'll see if this will work. Okay. Fantastic. So I'm going to just. Yeah, I'm just actually going to make it a whole different thing. There we go. Okay, fantastic. So now we're talking about citizenship. So first question, what is citizenship? Again, from Wayne University, a citizen is a participatory member of a political community. Citizenship is gained by meeting the legal requirements of national, state, or local government. The nation grants certain rights and privileges to its citizens. In return, citizens are expected to obey their country's laws and defend it against its enemies. That has very broad context, and I think is defined primarily from the more general model of citizenship in macronations. And so that's going to be kind of something that we need to recontextualize for micronationalism. But that is a general enough definition to cover micronational circumstances, so it's a good place to start. So then what is micronational citizenship? Micronational citizenship, as opposed to general citizenship, is contextualized by a smaller number of people. Of course, these micronations, by definition, are unrecognized nations by other macronations. So the people that you have in there, the same reasons that they are unrecognized generally are the things that define them as micronations. So that would be having a small number of citizens, a small number of people who are supporting this group. Little to no resources, that can be financial resources, that can be time, that can be equipment, anything that would help you to gain value. They generally have a very small amount of that. And then little to no presence, that means recognition as a nation, that means publicity in the public eye, that means activity, what is actively happening and ongoing within their community or outside of it. Micronations a lot of the time have very scarce ability to do things because of lack of time, resources, and lack of resources, presence, and number of people that are involved. So then the purpose of that citizenship are to fulfill those things, specifically to strategically equip the tools of the nation in order to produce meaningful benefits. So if the context is a small number of people, little to no resources, little to no presence, well, then the goal of citizenship is trying to increase all of those things. And the only way to increase those is to take what you have and be able to make something of it. So as micronations contextualize citizenship into their own terms. Hey, ooh, we have a subscriber, the Caden Republic. Thank you so much for subscribing. That means a lot. Again, I'm going to go back through comments and stuff later on, and we're going to have a more focused talk in a little bit once I get through these slides. So definitely hit us up with your comments and let us know what you're thinking. But that's the idea, is that these micronations need to have their citizenships designed around the things that they have at the time. Those citizenships will grow and change and adapt, but ultimately you have to be able to get some positive benefit out of your citizens. Otherwise, it's hard to justify them. Even citizenship as plain as anybody who says they're a citizen is a citizen gives some benefit to the nation. It gives that increase in number. It gives that increase in presence. So the more that you refine and develop your citizenship, you are reworking the way that your nation works from the ground level. Citizens are the most basic, most fundamental building block of a nation, and therefore the design of how the system of citizenship works in your country is really defining what it is that your goals are and how it is that you are trying to move forward from the ground level. So those functions can be to grow population, to raise awareness, to support media, and support infrastructure. Growing population, of course, is increasing that number, and that number specifically being citizens, people who are dedicated supporters, people who are going to be constantly, hey, another subscriber. We have, ooh, who's this one? This one is Official Vistrin. Thank you. Ooh, I went too far. Hey, okay. So trying to grow your population means you are trying to increase that number. Raising awareness, of course, is that very similar to support in media, but specifically is trying to make whatever this issue that you have known. The reasons for why you are doing what you're doing, it helps to define who you are in the public opinion. Supporting your media is really to help grow that influence, to grow that awareness, to grow that ability to create more traction in a social setting. So it's different than awareness in the sense that it gives more action. It gives more ability than just awareness. Awareness is people understanding and knowing about your nation or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Supporting your media specifically means a dedicated group of people who are actively backing the things that you have to say in order to give you more reach, more influence, more ability. And then supporting infrastructure means specifically things like supporting governments. You know, becoming a part of the government as a citizen is a lot of the things that give people benefits in their citizenship, as well as being able to move through different social structures. And so that infrastructure are the benefits to your citizens, and their support and working within that infrastructure is the thing that allows them to help the nation develop. It is the process, the machine by which the nation develops. But then more than that, it is also of benefit, or should be of benefit, to those citizens. These should be positions and opportunities that these citizens are excited for and that they feel advance or enhance their life in some way. Going to continue. So, and as well, we will go back after and clarify any questions and deal with things as they come up. We can go back and forth between slides and stuff. But real quick, problems. There are a lot of problems that come up when you focus on a micronational context for creating citizenship. These are in three big parts. Now, a lot of these sections I have simplified down into their biggest worries. There's a lot that could go into each of these slides. These could be their own individual talks, but for now we're going to focus on the biggest problems and the big picture. So the financial problems could be things like equipment, training, and turnover. Equipment would specifically be, your people having very little ability to produce something, because it is hard for them to gain, the equipment to compete. So if it costs, if it costs your nation uh, $100 to be able to produce something, and it costs a factory that's been producing it for years and years and years $2 to produce the thing, it's a lot less beneficial for people to purchase your product. And so a lack of equipment can be a big factor in creating financial problems. Training as well. So it's this issue, this catch-22 of, well, I don't have money, but I need money to make money. I need equipment to make money. I need these things to be able to make money, but all of these cost money. So training as well, very similar. Training can be things like this that's free, and I definitely encourage people to do so. Same thing with equipment. You can gather equipment from people who are trained in certain skills, but it's hard to find. Training as far as this setting goes is the easiest and I think one of the most effective ways of going about it. But a lot of the time there is specific job training that needs to be done, and a lot of the time that's an ongoing thing. So the better your training, the better your education of your population, of your citizens can be, the better, more productive citizens they are at what they're trying to do, because they have this constant feedback loop. And so training can be one of the biggest detriments to nations, because they have a lot of people coming in and out who are have very little impact simply because of the position they're put in. It's not that they aren't capable of doing that. It's not that they aren't willing and exciting participants. It's that they are put in this position where they are in a limited ability to work within the system, but the system has limited resources in and of itself, so there's only so much you can expect to get out of anyone. And then finally, turnover. The way that micronationalism works, as far as I have seen, and we'll get to this in a problem. We'll get to this in the niche problem section. But turnover specifically, as far as a financial focused look at it, would be based around quality, quality of life, quality of atmosphere, of environment. So you need to and want to be able to pay people, and to be able to support benefits for them, and to be able to give them things that feel enhanced in their life, in their comfortability, in their comfort, not comfortability, in their comfort, and in their um, ability to perform. The easier you make someone's job and the more perks you give them, obviously the more they're going to want to stay with that if they feel like it is truly fulfilling them. All of those things I feel like deal with fulfillment in a job or in a life position. And a lot of the time, the thing that causes such high turnover, the reason that citizens jump in and out of micronations, the reason that micronations can be so unstable a lot of the time, is because of these financial problems, is because they have this turnover, these training issues, these equipment issues. There's more to it than that, and there are higher level issues with that. But there are remedies and ways around that depending on how you're focusing. So then there are legal problems, of course. Now, legal problems, right off the bat, things like payment. You want to be able to follow standard, and have to follow, once you get to a certain size, standard legal operating procedures for things like employment. So if you have people constantly working for you and doing things for you, eventually those people, and you're making profit, but other people aren't making profit, or the organization's making profit, but no individual employees are making profit, eventually those people are identified as employees. Regular work, regular production of things for profit ends up defining people as employees. And so you really need to check your local and federal statutes and norms for what you need to be doing, how you need to be operating. A lot of those are very synonymous to small businesses, so I'd recommend you look into that. But there is a wealth of information in that, and that is something that is crucial to a nation's survival up to a certain point. Once they start making money, once they start growing their economy, which tries to tackle those financial problems, you immediately run into these legal problems, which you have to hurdle. Another one is age. People who are supporting micronations a lot of the time have a large age range. There will be some people who are in their 50s and 60s who are supporting a micronation. There will be some people who are 11 and 12 supporting a micronation. I don't think that invalidates one of those, but I think that age, as far as the legal system works, is a very, very, very careful thing that you have to tread around. A lot of micronations are started by very young people, so it's no surprise that they are supported by a lot of young people. But in doing so, you have to make sure that you're doing right by those young people, because a lot of the time they don't have the experience or understanding of what those conventional practices are and what is defined by them as far as their rights. So making sure that they understand that in a legal setting is important. And one of the biggest things that I push on the channel that I want to push here again is to make sure that the people who are working with you have their parents involved. If they are under 18 years of age, if they are under the legal age to be operating as adults, they need to have their parents involved, and they need to, or guardians, and they need to be well supervised in that, because a lot of the time there are going to be questions that come up that need larger advisement and involvement. And if you know that they are supported by people who care about them and who are understanding and able to help make decisions with them and for them, you will have a much higher success rate, and you will also prevent a lot of problems that could be immediate downfall things for micronations. And it may not even be a malicious problem. It may be something that arises simply out of ignorance. But it's important for both parties to do their due diligence, especially the micronation, because they are the ones trying to bring these people in with benefits, trying to make this thing happen. So if you want to do it right, if you want to treat your citizens right, you have to understand how to tackle these legal problems. As well, there's the lack of precedent. The overall problem with micronationalism is the fact that there is very little precedent for a lot of the steps that it takes to become a micronation, and to become a macronation, really, is the ultimate objective. A lot of people can start micronations, and we'll talk about that in a second, but ultimately trying to get your citizens to be able to do certain things, trying to organize and operate in a specific way as a micronation, a lot of the times is hard, because you are trying to move through different steps you need to, and then realizing there's not a precedent for this. There isn't a clear-cut way to go about this exact thing I'm trying to do, and there's not very much literature on it. So I have to figure out what things apply to me and what things don't under certain circumstances. And so a lot of that will go forward in your own operating procedures and your own designs and your own development for your micronation. So I can't answer all of that here. For now, it's going to be generalized and then talking about what we're doing specifically. So then there are niche problems. One of the biggest in the micronational community, I've talked about it before on the channel. I have made a video called Why You Shouldn't Start a Micronation, and I heavily agree with that video, not because starting a micronation isn't a good thing, but because of this founder dilution problem, what I've coined the founder dilution problem. Basically, the idea that if you have too many kings, if you have too many people who are trying to start micronations and rule them, there is still a limited number of resources in the community. There's still a limited number of active participants, regularly active participants. There's still a limit on the size and speed at which the community grows, even though it grows quicker and quicker every day. And there is a certain time constraint that each individual in that niche has to support the niche. So a lot of the time, what micronations have done is said, hey, we're, instead of getting citizens, as someone who's interested in micronationalism, instead of joining a micronation, instead of supporting it and trying to figure out how to grow it, I'll just create my own. So a lot of time, people coming into the micronational community, their mindset is, I'm creating my own micronation. I'm interested in micronationalism because I want to create a nation. And that is an inherent problem with the concept of micronationalism and with the way the community has grown. So trying to get people out of that mindset isn't to dissuade them from starting nations. It's more so to allow people who may have almost identical ideas of nationhood, but just who now have different symbols, to be able to help each other and to work together and to be able to grow and grow more quickly than to just have all of these loose, tangled bits. That are starting and failing and changing and adapting over and over and over again to attempt to survive. So the niche's active size is the next thing, and that plays right into the founder dilution problem. A niche's active size is still so much. You would say, well, why is it a problem for people to start micronations? Everybody should be able to start a micronation and be able to find their own way to success. Yes, I think micronationalism is going to continue to grow very, very quickly, especially with increasing populations. In 50 years from now, 100 years from now, there will probably be a ton of micronations and a ton of them doing very well and being successful. However, uh, as of right now, especially, our niche's active size is fairly low compared to others. So there's not a lot of money going around. There's not a lot of time spent in it. There's not a lot of resources. These things all become strenuous on every micronation, the more micronations are in it. So that's why it's called the founder dilution problem, because you're taking this activity, this limited amount of activity, and you're dividing it further and further and further and further amongst micronations, to where most micronations on average may have one person as a citizen, or less than one person as a citizen on average. So that's an issue. And then finally, citizenship norms. Um, the community, because of this this dilution problem, has sort of naturally evolved its own solution, which isn't necessarily beneficial. It's the idea that I'll just decrease the value of my citizenship. You know, my micronation's value has been diluted because there are less people actively trying to join me because there's so many micronations being created. So what I'll do instead is I'll just make it easy to join my micronation. Hey, join my micronation. You can join any other micronation. Join my micronation, and you don't really have to do anything. Just support us and just watch our video. Just do whatever. Join my micronation and you can become the vice president. Join my micronation and you can do all these different things. Join my micronation, you can have your own state in it. Join my micronation and you can do all these different things. Um, the issue with that is that it's continuing to dilute further sections of your nation, and that creates that problem of the limits that people can operate in within your infrastructure, within the things you're creating. So the more and more that you make it easy for people to join your nation, the less value each individual citizenship has, because there's so much chaos and there's so many things going on that it is hard for anyone to produce effectively and consistently some positive benefit for the nation. There will be flare-ups of benefit even for the most loosely scattered nations. There will be somebody who creates something cool and then you can use it and you can apply it and you can say this is from us. But if you want consistent, accurate results, you need to have a system in place to do that. And the more citizens you have, if you are trying to do that, the harder it is to be able to quell these problems. Every time you get a new citizen, you have to deal with all of these problems for that individual citizen. You have to think about where you're putting them. You have to think about how they're going to fit into the rest of the structure of what you're doing. You have to figure out how much time they can commit, how much, to be able to put on them, what their training is, what their expertise is, so that you have people going to the right places, doing the right things, and feeling good about being in those positions. If somebody feels stressed out and overwhelmed because you put a lot of work on them, they're going to want to leave, and that's fine, because micronationalism is about seeking things that are beneficial to your life and things that you enjoy. So I think that's one of the hardest things in micronationalism, is getting over those citizenship norms and showing a better way. So I can't tell you what the right way for you to do that is, for your own micronation, for your own circumstances, but for us, we're moving forward with Aeternian citizenship so far. So Aeternian citizenship is 1/3 of the prestige system. The prestige system is just a licensing system. I won't go too much into it. We have another video on that. But the citizenship license is how everything flows in a citizenship. It is your key to citizenship, as you may have seen in our previous citizenship video. It allows you all of your prestiges, which are your benefits, your access points to different parts of the infrastructure of the nation, and that's kind of down there at the bottom. These prestiges, tell people, for example, if you're a part of our aristocrat board, if you're a part of the government, if you are a business owner. These are all things that can be unlocked and accessed via the prestige system, via these licenses that you get prestiges in, as well as your skills, so that people know where to put you, know how to work with you, and know how good you are at those things. And then as well, the requirements for citizenship have been defined for us really well, and these are things that are being held important to what it is citizenship is in the Empire of Aeternia. As you can see, here's the license of citizenship as well, for our own master, Stephen Vince, the House of Treasure. So one of the most important things we wanted to focus on is economic productivity for our nation. Economic productivity is huge because of this previous problem screen. The more citizens you want to have, if the idea for a micronation, if the idea for your micronation, like it is ours, is to be able to take care of our citizens, to be able to grow a thriving community, every time you add a new citizen, the quality of life decreases if the amount of resources stays the same. So every citizen needs to be increasing the value of the total collective resources we have. Otherwise, we can't continue to grow and flourish. In that, you have to make sure that there is some basic understanding of a value for a citizen. So therefore, we require, as an easy way to meet that, and to deal with that, to compensate for that problem, that every citizen be economically productive in some fashion. Now, the two ways that we've decided around that is $1 on our Patreon. You can support us on Patreon if you have zero time. If you said, I can't watch any of the videos, I can't do any of this thing, but I like the idea, I want to be a citizen, I want to be a part of it whenever I get around to it. You can support us on Patreon. $1 a month on Patreon. It is a way to directly contribute to us and a way to allow us to still have mobility while you're existing and being a citizen, participating in our system to the ability that you can. It allows us to still do things. It allows you to be a productive part of our nation without lifting a finger. So that's the most direct way to do it, and for a lot of people, if you can afford it, the easiest way. But we don't want to make a gatekeeping system for our nation. We want anybody who has the drive and the interest to become an Aeternian to be able to, and we want there to be benefits to that. We want there to be inherent value in that. So the other thing you can do is to create digital content for us. As of right now, our YouTube channel is the thing that we are moving toward monetization with, and so we have been encouraging people to send us videos and to supply us with content so that we can make that for the channel. There's probably going to be some adjustments in that as we move along. One of those being in that legal requirements and defining what work is. We may move from a system where we are still collecting videos and content from citizens, but we may adapt from a direct to upload design where we take a citizen's content and we put it on, to actually creating an edited, chopped version of that, where we would still be putting in some work to actually, put pieces of different people's content together to make a larger video, a larger piece of content, as a submission system, so that way we could operate more ethically within the law. As of right now, we haven't done anything wrong because we have not monetized, but as we get toward monetization, that is something to look into, is whether people who are creating this content for us are actually working, or are they considered employees, and if so, there's a lot of difficulty and strain that would come with that in trying to support so many people who are creating content for us. So that will be designed and redirected as we get closer and closer to that, but that is something important to bring up now. In continuation with that, so this is a way for us to move forward, and it's a way for us to move forward even if we have to adjust it slightly, but it is still a manageable and successful approach toward this. As well, singular citizenship. There's that time aspect. The money and time aspect are the biggest things that are struggles for micronationalists in getting value for their nation. So making sure that people are specifically committed to the Empire of Aeternia is the most important thing for us. If you want to be a citizen, you can participate in Aeternia as much as you want, but there are going to be limits to what you can do unless you are a citizen. If you are a citizen, you have the keys to the kingdom unlocked to you. You have the empire at your disposal, and it is simply because we are trying to get those people to be Aeternians for the long run. So of course, you can have your own macronational citizenship, and you can have as many macronational citizenships as you are able. However, when it comes to micronationalism, there's only a certain amount of time and money that people can pump into this niche at the moment. So therefore, we want to make sure that the time that is spent within that niche is spent within Aeternia if you are to become an Aeternian citizen. So we have a singular citizenship model where someone who becomes a citizen of Aeternia cannot become a citizen of another micronation. Then as well, they must be economically productive, either through our Patreon or through providing us with digital content. So, what are the aims of us? What does Aeternia specifically plan to achieve by having these citizens as we've defined them, and in trying to create these these abilities for them to move forward? Well, I'm really going to define that in two basic categories. What can these citizens do? Well, they can be put into either constructive roles or investigative roles. And I think that's a pretty general way of describing what almost any micronation has to do. Constructive roles would be things like maintenance assignments. Maintenance not necessarily being repairing or maintaining in a literal sense, like, somebody who is a plumber is doing maintenance on plumbing. It can be that, but a lot of the time it's more maintaining the infrastructure of the micronation. So we have already created all these different programs. We've created the prestige system, citizenship. We have developed all of these different methods and benefits for people to participate. We have, even internationally, things like the aristocrat board, things like the micronational map. And so those are all things which, even though they feel small individually and like not too much to handle, when it all comes together, there is a minimum level of maintenance required. And the more things that we add, the more benefits it gives to our citizens and to people in the micronational community to draw them to us. But that also jumps up and skyrockets our maintenance costs. So we have to be able to balance that with citizens, and we have to be able to balance the citizens with value creation. So every citizen needs to be able to create value, and then every citizen needs to be able to assist in some, not every citizen. Citizens then can be refined down to be divided up into specific categories as far as what jobs they would like to do and what jobs they're equipped to do. A big one is going to be maintenance, to make sure that that minimum level of maintenance is achieved at all times. From there, production as well is a big thing. That would be more toward our economy. That would be creating things. Of course, a lot of the time that would be things that are sold by our government. That would be like the media that we have. We have, in fact, our first tertiary tier uh, um, government position was in fact Press Noble Nathan's in creating a press nobleship within the House of Others. And that's specifically because of how important content and media has been to the direction we've been growing. And so that is a vital part of our production, and we have him taking up that role quite well for that purpose. It is part of the active maintenance of us, but it is also part of ensuring our continued growth. And then finally, management assignments. That would be more like what Gray and Steven do, where they are specifically overseeing the day-to-day operations, the maintenance and the production, as well as things like investigative roles. But that's a slightly different topic in a moment. In general, constructive roles should be things that are actively participating and doing something that affects the ongoing day-to-day operations of your nation. Specifically for us, a lot of that is focused on media, is focused on an online presence. Then we have investigative aims. Those are going to be things like research assignments, development assignments, and representative assignments. So research being, go out and figure out this information. We have a question, we don't know how to figure this thing out, we don't know how to move forward, get the answer. Get some suggestions for what we can do, how we can go about it, what are our best approaches. Development assignments, going from, okay, we have this idea, we have this plan, let's put it together into something that is concrete, something that works. Try it out. Be the first explorer to do the thing, make it happen, engineer us something effective. Finally, representative assignments would be going to other nations or even internal to your own nation to represent, to give some specific addressing, to be able to move forward with specific plans and assignments based around giving people different representative roles in what they should speak on, how they should operate, and what the scope of their job is, very similar to a management assignment. But representative assignments would be separated from management assignments sometimes because of their specificity to a particular goal. For example, trying to have a meeting with foreign dignitaries and trying to hash out some specific deal or something. And then what are our methods and requirements? So this is the final slide, and this one is a way for us to understand what Aeternia is doing, how we are going forward, what our empire is actively designing its infrastructure to be for ease of implementation. So the big three that I've broken it down into are organization, planning, and execution. If we can get this trifecta, if we can get all these things up and working, that takes care of our maintenance. That takes care of the day-to-day operations in all of their goodness. And that's going to allow us to feel more comfortable, to be able to slowly grow, and to be able to track what we need and revise and improve our goals as we go along to make sure we're always meeting those base requirements. So, organization, Google Calendar. We have set up a Google Calendar. I think it's important that we hit it harder and harder every single time we move forward. But I have decreed, and I've tried to move forward with, that every official happening needs to be designated in that Google Calendar. And I'm going to continue to stress that as we go forward, simply because it allows everybody to, as long as they are part of the Google Calendar, to check it and to know what's going on. If there's any questions that someone has from something, those things can be dealt with internally. But if it's a scheduling issue, or if it's something like that, if they see everything in broad and can go through and track that on their own, it makes it a lot easier to solve problems instead of, oh, okay, well, how are we getting everybody together? Are we sure that we know everybody's together? Are we sure we know everything's good? If it's all in the Google Calendar, if everything's figured out, it's set, and we can move forward. So all official happenings are going to be designated before they occur in that Google Calendar. As well, which is actually something that I didn't do for this meeting, but it will be post-recorded, and is going to be continued to be stressed. I'm trying to make more of an effort to do that directly on my part. The streams probably won't be, but we're gonna. That's simply because of a lack of a stream schedule. But we're gonna continue to push forward in making that. Those exceptions fewer and fewer and fewer. Finally, recorded meetings for organization. We need to have everything be as transparent as possible, but as well as informative as possible, not only for the micronational community, but for ourselves, to be able to know, if you miss a meeting or something happens, how you can effectively achieve your goals is going to be vital to achieving them in the proper time, and doing it in a large way. So all official happenings need to be recorded and distributed, with very few exceptions. So that's going to be for house meetings, for meetings like we're having today, having those things either streamed or recorded and then uploaded at a later date. Keep everybody in the loop. Planning is going to be designed based around how we create these objectives. When we're trying to organize, now that we're set up and we know what we're doing, what is everybody moving forward with? How are you assigning people? How are you working with things? We need to have pre-established quantitative goals. So when we try to do something, we need to make sure that we know the time limit that we have, the value that we're trying to achieve. There need to be clear and concrete objectives. We need to hit $100. We need to hit $100 within a month. We need to hit this thing and this thing. You need a time and you need an amount. In some way, you need to be able to quantitate, to give a numerical value to the goal you're trying to achieve, so that way it's easily known whether or not you achieved it. If you give very broad, sweeping goals, then it's easy to argue back and forth as to whether or not someone actually achieved that. But if you have a specific numeric goal that everyone can look at and verify as to whether or not it's been achieved, that can very clearly help to point out performance issues, and as well to be able to revise future plans. So very critical. In the continuation of that, creation of a detailed action plan. Once you have those quantitative goals in place and you know the things you're trying to achieve really well, then you can go into the detailed action plan and actually go about pitching this full thing that is now established, that is now something that can be officially approved. And that would be with the 5 W's and the 1 H. Who, what, when, where, why, how. You need to be able to know who you're assigning to different things, who's going to be involved in this project, what the project is, those pre-established quantitative goals, when it's going to be, again, part of those pre-established quantitative goals, where it's going to be, and why we're doing it, what the purpose of it, what the hopes are for it, and then finally how. How is this going to be achieved? Again, all of that sums into quantitative goals, but it breaks down each individual section to make sure that everybody who's going to be a part of it really understands and has a place to track back to make sure that they're doing their job right. This is incredibly important when it comes to management positions, because if one of the house masters comes to me and pitches an idea for their house to move forward with, and we have a vague setup, then when I approve that, it may be hard for someone further down the line to fully interpret or understand what they're supposed to be doing. And so then if they ask their housemaster, their boss, what to do, and they get told something, and they start doing that, and then there becomes a conflict, there becomes an issue, or there is any confusion in the final result, well, there's no real way to track that. There's no real way to say you didn't do your job right or whatever, because it's such a general thing. It's non-descriptive, it's non-quantitative. So if you have ways to go through and make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, it's easy to achieve. Questions are made a lot more simple, and there are less bumps in the road that are things that can completely derail a project. And then finally, there's that approval. Once everybody knows what they're doing, it's been pre-designed, everybody has been talking about it for a while, then you can go ahead and approve things. The worst thing to do would be to be moving in such a way that everybody can't feel on board, that people feel like they're having to jump into things last minute and hope they can understand them because they don't have the time or ability to be involved in that. So to make that easy on people, to instead of making everybody be paying attention 24/7, 365 in order to achieve things, design systems that allow them to check in at their own pace, such as this Google Calendar, such as these detailed action plans, which can help to break down knowledge and disperse it to others. So once those approvals happen, then we get into execution. Everybody knows what they're going to do. Everything's been approved. Everybody's ready to go. Now you need consistent, regular check-ins and connections. So that's going to be things like making sure you're connected on Discord. If you're a part of Discord, we have a great Discord community, and specifically within our internal stuff, we have the Hall of the Empire for our citizens, and we also have internal government chats that we have opened up to be able to message back and forth and make sure everybody's up to date on things. So having stuff like that is important to be able to get messages out to people quickly. A lot of people have the notifications attached to their phone, so it's a way to separate things out and focus it down. As well, meetings, really important. Again, for us in particular, we're going to be recording those, but it's important. Progress reports, very similar to the detailed action plans, but I think can be a lot less formal. Those detailed action plans are things that you really want to grind the details out of. You really want to make sure it's well established and well understood, but sometimes things will happen and things will change in the middle of trying to achieve a goal or in the middle of trying to finalize a project or something. So in that case, progress reports are really important because they can let you know as early as possible when there's a problem, and you can navigate that up the chain. So if there's something that's happening, somebody can send you a progress report as a manager, and you can be able to understand that progress report, reply to them and try and solve the problem. And at very worst, if you can't solve the problem, it's quick to move it up the chain again and then to revise and be able to fix things. But you don't know what you need to revise unless you're actively checking in on those things and making sure with fair ease how you are doing in comparison to the goals you're trying to achieve. How close you are. Is it possible? So then there's those checkpoints and milestones. You know, as you're going along with this, as you have that detailed action plan, you should probably put in there some checkpoints and milestones and be hitting those and adjusting those as you go on, because you need to be able to understand in your own plan what objectives lead to other objectives. There are going to be plenty of things in a plan that you can't do until some previously met requirement happens. You know, if you are trying to, for example, pitch a plan, right? You can't get approval for that plan until you've had a creation of a detailed action plan. So that would be something that is a milestone for moving through the approval process. Just like that, there are plenty of things with people's individual goals as well as the group's goals that are always going to need to be checked in on and are going to need to be uh, understood as completed so that the proper moves can be made to continue the project, and as well so that person can be reassigned if they need to. And finally, third to second to last, success criteria. Those success criteria are going to be relevant and you're going to be very important because you need to be able to know when it is that you've done the thing that you've done, and to know how many success criteria are appropriate for something. If you're trying to do this world-changing thing, you probably need a lot of very specific success criteria. However, if you're trying to achieve one small isolated thing, then you know it's easy to come up with the success criteria because it may just be one or two things. So success criteria and developing those success criteria are going to be important for a detailed action plan, but across the board, just in trying to understand and execute what you're doing, success criteria allow the people all around you, top and bottom, to know what it is that they're supposed to be doing and what it is that determines the difficulty of this project, right? Because the detailed action plan is going to be a lot and it's going to feel like a lot, even potentially if you're doing something small. But the success criteria for that are the thing that really throws the weight in. You know, what does the final end goal of this look like and how far away from right now are we in that? So that's going to be a big deal. And then finally, once you have those success criteria met, once you've gone through everything, you can, and even if you haven't met those success criteria, if you have those defined and you come short, you can revise and you can create a new action plan. You can rewrite that. If it was a successful thing and you show that it was a successful thing, you may say, hey, this is great. We need to be doing this all the time now. So you could rewrite the action plan and say, it's great, we did it, here's the things. We have new goals now that are slightly adjusted based on how our performance was, and here it is, we're going to do it again. Or you could say, hey, it didn't really work out, this is why we think it didn't work out, these are the new things that we can create to continue to move forward. So all of that creates context within the smaller organizations that you're working in, and the smaller groups that you're working in your overall micronation. So for us, for our citizens, that means making sure that they understand these action plans and that these things are accepted by everybody before we move forward. Because even though we don't have a democratic process, we do have one that involves heavily people's support and people's ability to participate. So the more that they're involved in that and the more that they can approve and agree to what's happening, the easier it is for them to achieve those things. And they don't feel like they're just caught up in this mess of activity. So being able to rewrite those things, being able to design those are all very, very important. And those are our methods. Those are the ways that we are going about using and achieving productivity within our citizens to gain benefits, to be able to grow what it is that the Empire of Aeternia is doing and try to mitigate some of those problems that naturally arise with citizenship and trying to improve quality of life. So, with all of that, we are finished, and then I have sources that just show you, where that Wayne University is. But now I want to jump back into our call and see if we can't talk about questions. And as well, I'll read a little bit of the chat. First off, does anybody have any questions? Nathan, Gray, you both good? So multiple things. In the chat, we have the National Republic of Racenia saying Ayo. Imperial Kingdom of Salem saying they're back. Jackson Gaming jumping through. Aiden Seth Escamillis said, Ayo dude, I'm gonna go to my Micronation account. Oh, thank you. Caden Republic said, what's up? It's good to see you. Official Vistern says, Ayo, I'm here. Gonna go apply to be on the map. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nova said, I'm sorry I'm late again. All good. She said, I bought about 10 square feet of land and I'm planning on expanding. Congratulations. Vistern says, I forgot that the Democratic Republic of Vistern was originally called Gregoria, but due to the Vice President's opinion, it had to be changed. Interesting. Master Deontes, Dionite says hello. Hello, Master Dionite. It's good to see you. TRC says hello. Roland Brewer says hi. TRC says they have 12 citizens after 7 stressful months. Congratulations, TRC. Roland says getting people to join is not hard. It's keeping those people that's the hard part. Caden says, yeah. TRC says, yeah, but haven't had any luck in ages, so it's a big thing for me. Caden Republic says, my Micronation has hit a standstill. What would I do to maybe restart that? I think it depends on your process and how you've gone about development. White One says, oh, dang, 55 minutes late. 16 minutes ago, I checked in to see if you were streaming. Oh, it's all good. Well, we are now, and it's good to see you, White One, as well. I want to jump back in with Gray and Nathan. So, are there any questions that have been developed? Is there anything that needs to be recovered or that could be addressed in more detail? Because I want to make sure everything's understandable. Absolutely. So what this was designed to do was to show us kind of what citizenship is in general, what it is to micronations, what the problems are with citizenship that come along with citizenship for any micronation, and then saying, this is what Aeternia defines citizenship as, this is how Aeternian citizenship works as a process, as an organization, as an organizational structure, as an institution, and then saying, this is how we deal with citizens. This is how we use citizens effectively in different roles. These are the requirements that are needed to be able to act as a citizen and as a part of our organizational structure. So that's the idea, is to try and say, hey, this is the way that we go about compensating for all of those problems that have been developed previously. If you want to have a citizen go about producing something or doing something, it can be traced back to one of the categories that we talked about and needs to be done in one of these methods, in going through these methods and requirements that we've listed. Are there continued questions though? I mean, that's the greater part. If you feel like there's something here that hasn't. Absolutely. So citizenship in a nation generally is part passive and part active. Um, a lot of citizenship is about identifying with the culture and is about being present in the micronation or the macronation and being just considered a part of the society. A lot of that is passive. There is certain benefit just from having people who consider themselves citizens. There is another active part, saying, hey, in order for you to drive, you need to be able to have a driver's license. In order to be able to participate in our society, you need to be able to pay taxes. In order to, in the US, for example, in order to do certain things, in order to hold certain positions, even a job, there are requirements that you have to meet and things you have to do. And those things are designed that way such that the government, whether it's a macronational government or a micronational government, is able to achieve the base minimum that it needs to prolong itself. So as more citizens come in, they have this system designed such that in order to become a part of it and in order to achieve things in it, you are helping them simultaneously to achieve the bare minimum requirements necessary to keep the system afloat. So that's what That's what this is an attempt to do, is saying we are using these citizens is to say that we are putting them into active development. We are trying to get these citizens to economically perform for us. We are trying to get these citizens to achieve the base minimum requirements we need to survive as an organization. It's like talking about active versus non-active citizens, right? There are a ton of micronations who may have 500 citizens but never do anything. Yeah. And these are the methods and requirements as far as how to do that, how to treat those citizens appropriately, how to make sure that you're navigating the system properly when trying to design goals and to achieve those. Because yeah, just the general idea to remember is anytime we have, and a larger point of this talk is just to say, anytime we have a new citizen coming in, that increases the the amount of work we have to do to keep everything up. So making sure that that citizen produces more than that base minimum is what we need to actually grow. Um, so designing the system to make sure that that happens every time is the point. Um, are there anything else? Like, I feel like there could be plenty of things that are missed or that are gaps or that are just things that may not have even been talked about or approached in the talk. So I want to make sure that that's 100%. So I hope I didn't misunderstand what the request of this was. So is the are we trying to today train people on how to apply to citizenship and train citizens, or are we trying to? Absolutely. So that's kind of what the house's development is for. And that's why I designed this more around teaching you guys how to do that, is because if you all have specific goals, if the House of Others has this umbrella of citizenship, which we defined earlier, and which we established in our previous government meeting, that the House of Others is going to try and take over citizenship and try and do that. So then you guys with again additional support, um, would of course be designed around implementing that and explaining that to people. So I was hoping to be able to train you guys in how to approach that problem and how to approach that goal so that we could define those goals and create that for you all. As far as applying for citizenship, I can absolutely like plug that. I can say like, hey, go to the, in fact, I can do that right now. For anybody who does want to apply for citizenship, you can go to our website here at eternianempire.wixsite.com/imperial market. Let me make sure that that's on the stream as well. Yep, so you can go to Empire of Aeternia, eternianempire.wixsite.com/imperial market. You can go over to our second little tab here, citizenship page. Once you get there, you can go to the Empire Needs You, this little button, and it'll bring you to our citizenship application. Here it is. There have been quite a number of responses, I think over 30 now. And so what we are trying to do is to get people to, yep, 34. Is to fill this out, of course, it's going to require your email so that we can contact you, your name, whether or not you're 18 or older, what your motivations and interests are for applying for citizenship, so that we know, what your best fit in our nation would be and what you want to do. Your maximum level of education achieved, so that we know, what potential skills or what potential things to try to move toward for you. If you've been awarded any degrees or skill-based certifications, similar thing, just to know what you're trained in, what you're involved in, what your Discord username is, what your hobbies are, what you feel you're most skilled in, um, uh, whether or not you'd be willing to create content for us as a form of paying for your citizenship, and describing yourself in a few basic words, in a few basic terms. And then finally, anything else you want us to know about you. All of that is to collect basically a profile on you and to understand who you are, why it is you're applying, and what you hope to gain out of citizenship. And from all of that, we can take it, we can understand a little bit more about you, we can reach out to you and say, hey, we looked at your profile, we looked at your application, we think that you might be interested in these and these positions that we're offering. As you try and get into citizenship, these are the ways that you can get into that. But all of that is really counseling for our citizens. All of that is what I would hope the House of Others would actually be getting into, which would be meeting those people who are applying for citizenship and showing them the process of moving through that and helping to make that determination with them of how they're going to meet their citizenship requirements, what positions they'd like to work in, how they want to help. Because it really is going to be an individual case-by-case basis. There's going to be plenty of people who say, hey, I don't want to make videos, but I'm happy to pay the $1 a month of Patreon. Hey, I don't have the $1 a month. I want to support via content. There's going to be plenty of people who are in some weird in between. There's a lot of personal navigation and personal growth and development that's going to come with someone wanting to become a citizen, and for us to accept that person and to really understand what their goals are and to see if they align with what we're trying to do. So in that, I would hope that we could properly train the House of Others to be able to effectively handle the management of citizens who are coming in and wanting to apply and who are wanting to move through the various stages of that process. And as well, hopefully to define what the reason behind that is, what the limitations for how many citizens we can take in is, and why that is, are kind of our determinations now. I try to point out, hey, these are the problems that we run into when citizens come in. These are the benefits the citizens provide that are the reason that we accept citizens. And then, now as the House of Others, what does that look like in this moment for us? How many citizens can we afford to have? What is the focus of citizenship right now? What are we trying to put most of that application into? Are we trying to really push content? Are we trying to spread people out to different areas where we might have gaps in communication with other nations? Or what are the ultimate goals that the House of Others wants to use citizen resources in order to be able to grow for our nation? And that's going to have to be something that's decided upon with you guys, and how much time you can commit to that, and what the size of these goals are, what the hopeful achievements and ultimate benefits will be of that. Um, did that help at all, Nathan? Yeah, it's like Micronation Citizenship how to. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What do you feel like are those missing things? Oh, 100%. So that's actually something that we still have some development in, but there is definitely a pathway to right now. So, like I said earlier, citizenship and specifically getting your citizenship license is the method through that. When you apply for citizenship with the Empire of Aeternia, um, you are we review everything. We try to make sure that we have your citizenship requirements met before you are officially declared a citizen. But once you have those requirements met, and we've been able to get all of that approved, you get your citizenship license. Your citizenship license are where you can start to apply for prestiges. There are certain prestiges that are only accessible via a citizenship license. So once you apply for citizenship, you'll get a citizenship license, and then from there, you can start to be walked through the different prestiges you can be a part of. Some of those are government, applying to become a business. Um, there are, and the quest system as well, which is a whole nother talk. But all of those things are ways that someone can provide benefit. Even just by meeting their citizenship requirements, they are already improving and providing a significant amount of benefit to us um, by simply existing and having citizenship. How they can become more productive for us and more play a larger role in our empire is based around their individual needs, which is why it's such a hard process to be able to say, well, we're going to, this is exactly step by step how you go up the ladder in Eternia, because it's not just a straight ladder. It's not a direct shot up to the top. It's a branching tree. It's a network. And so once somebody gets in and becomes a citizen, that's where I think the House of Others and trying to take over citizenship for the House of Others would be best applied, is to say, hey, now that we have these citizens coming in, now that, for the people who have applied for the citizenship, making sure that they meet their citizenship requirements. Once they meet those citizenship requirements, being able to advise them toward what it is that they want to do and getting them fit in the right positions to benefit us. Because there isn't one right place to put them. It depends on what our larger goals are and what we need to focus on at the time. So, um, controlling citizenship and operating our citizenship system and the infrastructure that that involves is really about understanding where we need to put resources, and specifically human resources, how we need to be able to have people in different positions to achieve our goals. And those goals are going to be defined by what our problems are at the time and what we feel like we need to focus on most, which are up to you guys. There are, of course, going to be inputs by the House of Treasure and by myself, but um, that's where these methods and requirements are so important. Is the idea of the House of Others saying, "Hey, we want to be able to get, we want to be able to have 5 more citizens because we believe that we need to have an additional person in the House of Others, we need to have an additional person in the House of Treasure, and we need 2 people to be able to operate this new thing that we're trying to create and establish." And then you could create an action plan that details all of that and describes all of that, and then that could be moved through for approval. But without knowing what a specific goal is that we're trying to accomplish, without having specific people in mind who have specific skills, it would be hard to designate anything like that in detail right now, if that makes sense. I hope so. But yeah, that's the idea, is that um, right now and again, I want to make sure that this is correct from Gray's understanding as well. When we had set this up, my understanding was to train you and Gray on what citizenship is, how it's supposed to work. Fantastic. So Gray threw in, what is the back end work that needs to happen? How do we log requirements? Do we send out emails, letters? Who sets the Discord rules, etc.? Is there a thank you note we send out? All of these are great questions. Hey, so first off, what is the back end work that needs to happen? As far as the initial setup of the citizenship, everything has been designed as far as people applying. So meeting, reaching out to with an email um, those who have applied for citizenship and moving through the process of applicant to citizen. Then once that happens, the second part of taking that new citizen who has applied, and this would be part of moving from applicant to citizen, would be taking that newly developed citizen and knowing what it is that they need to be placed into. So citizens should be developed like finely crafted cogs in a machine, so to speak. You shouldn't have cogs that are not relevant or that are spinning but aren't connected to anything. They should be designed with specific purpose in mind for operating the machine and operating it more and more efficiently. So for that, really reaching out to those applicants, like we said, with an email, and we can actually create a thank you as well. That's something that I've always just personally written, and I think is nice to include as just a personal, however you would like to describe it, thank you for that person for applying. But then as well, we should have and can create official thank you letters for applying and for once that citizenship is accepted that would come with getting the citizenship license. So that'll be something that we develop. But yes, we'll send out emails and attached digital letters for thanking them for applying as well as thanking them for becoming citizens once they fulfill their requirements. Who sets the Discord rules? So as of right now, I have been setting Discord rules. Anybody who goes through Patreon can automatically, their Discord role is applied. If they have the $1 a month and they support uh, citizenship, uh, the citizenship tier on our Patreon, they automatically get citizenship and the perks that comes with in our Discord. Um, as far as as far as those who are going through the um, going through the content-based route, the way that we would have that is essentially a list of people who have met that. Those people's content has to go up on the channel before their roles can be applied. So far, we haven't had um, enough necessity for there to be multiple people who handle the Discord roles. And in the past, trying to give people permissions for the Discord role ended up really badly. We had like a whole bunch of people kicked and like banned from the server and stuff. That was a permissions thing. That was a whole different thing. But um, we can always apply that if we need to. If Gray, you need Discord role access, or if eventually Nathan needs Discord role access, we can absolutely get that and give that to you guys to be able to complete what you need to. But as of right now, I don't see us having enough citizens who are specifically going through the content-based route at any one time to warrant, you know, having such a long list of approvals in the Discord of actually just moving over a citizen to be able to warrant me not doing it. I can, if you guys said, hey, you already know because we posted the content, this guy, this person, this person, this person, this person are all needing their citizenship approved on Discord and to be put into that role. That's something I can easily go into our Discord, their username, and apply. So that's what I would recommend. The people who have already applied, we need to reach out to them. I've reached out to a good number, and in fact, I can tell you which ones I haven't. So I would say from the ones that we haven't reached out to yet, reaching out to them, making sure they know and are well aware of our interaction with them, and as well trying to move forward with them through that application process and that acceptance process. Once they become a citizen and they are developing content for us or doing whatever it is to meet that requirement, that would be the point where you could say, hey, this is the person, this is the person, this is their Discord name, add them as a citizen. And I would. We would handle it just like that. Nathan pointed up to his. Gray said, what folder or drive do we go to? Who can and cannot have access to it? As of right now, all of that should be available in our Empire of Aeternia drive, specifically in, it should either be, there might be a citizenship folder. I'll have to go back and check. But if not, there is a references folder that should have all of that in there. There may be specifically a citizenship application folder that has that in there and has all the responses in it, but I know there should be a Google Sheets form as well with all of the pre-described applicants, their emails and everything like that in there. That should be accessible. Excuse me. Only people who are a part of the government should have access to that. So that's very critical. Specifically, people with the GOV prestige on their license have access to it, and no one else. So GOV, I think it's 1 and 2, should have access to that, and no one else. So that would be myself, the Masters of the Houses, and nobles. Nobody else should need access to that. Nobody else is going to be working with that. So I think that should be fine. And as of right now, that's 4 people. So is there a spreadsheet of everything? How does the government know who's becoming a citizen? Can we see it? Yes, so absolutely, you can see that. I don't want to do that in the moment because I don't want to, well, I can, okay, hold on. I can do this. So I can focus the stream onto a different window, and then I can bring it up in our Discord meeting. So that way, technically, I can show it to you all without it being a part of the stream. And I can jump in there, change the window, and that way we're not doxing anyone. Cool. So that's it. Everybody on the stream, you're gonna see just the Google Slides. So I'm sorry about that for a moment, but I'm doing that for our security concerns. So let me jump in real quick, go to Google Sheets. Citizenship application responses. Let me make sure that is in our Google Drive. The Empire of Aeternia. Let's see if it's in reference documents. Citizens, citizen info. That's not it. Nope, that's already established citizens. Maybe that would be in, oh, applications. That makes a lot more sense. Yep, citizenship application. So when you go into reference documents, you'll see the actual application itself, and then you will see what should be the application responses. We have here the micronational map application responses, but then you can also go into citizenship application responses. Yep, and then here we go. It has all their stuff. It has emails and everything. Let me make sure it has emails and everything. Yep. Yep. All 34, I believe. up to this point. 35. Yep. Very cool. So yeah, we have that. That should be accessible to everybody. If it's not, please do let me know. It's definitely important. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this stuff for the time being, and then jump back so that everybody can see our meeting. Ta-da. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So that would be the setup. That would be the way that we should go about that. One of the things that we don't have on there yet, which I'll go through and update for it, that'll be one of my roles, my objectives, is I'm going to go through and systematically check who I've emailed so far, who has been contacted, and then from that actually going through and showing a check mark for everybody who, or a little X or something, for everyone who has already been contacted. That way you can know, okay, these are the people who are left to contact. These are the people who haven't been contacted. And if they have been contacted, potentially creating, a link or even a screenshot or something to the email that we sent them, and then, being able to X that out yourself and say, hey, we have record of that. Here's the record of that. Here's the communication. This is how it's gone. It seems like we've lost Nathan as of the moment. He might have had to run. Oh, there we go. Okay. So yeah, that's the setup as of right now, is trying to reach out to those people who have applied for citizenship but who haven't yet had the ability to get their citizenship application responded to. Most, if not all of them, should already be responded to. There may be new ones that I haven't responded to yet. But for the most part, they should be responded to. I'm going to go through, double check, make sure which ones have and have not been responded to. I'll update that so that everybody has that aware, and then we can continue to move forward with that. Gray asked a question. Let me throw this up a little bit so that we can see Gray's question. Gray says, as the House of Other goes to the application spreadsheet, what's step 2? Then step 3. Also, you don't have to... the HOO job is to log new citizens, and this is legwork. I'm confused about the last part, Gray. So you're saying I don't need to check which citizens have been accounted for and which ones haven't? I mean, I guess you guys can re-email everyone, but then that seems like it would also be like a way, I wouldn't want you guys to need to re-email every single person if some of it has already been emailed. But we can definitely continue to talk about that. I think what I would, because I go down the list systematically, so I can just even look at, last person, who's the most recent person who's applied that I've also sent a response to, and then I can be like, as of what I know, this is the most recent person. So all these people have had their applications responded to at least once. If there's anybody who we're doing a back and forth with actively, I can also send you guys that. But I mean, again, everybody can be recontacted, and it is possible to do so. I just figured I would try to help you guys out with that. But yeah, that would be the way to go about that. Gray asked, what's step 2, then step 3? So step 1, the House of Others goes to the application spreadsheet. From there, you would be, I would like to be able to confirm which citizens have or haven't been spoken to, applicants have been spoken to, and that way I could, literally forward email contacts and stuff like that to you guys, and forward message chains, so that you could literally hop on to the end of one if you wanted to, or say, hey, now we've taken over this, and we're trying to make sure we tie up loose ends and get everybody set up like they need to. So that I think would be the quickest way to go about it. But from there, once we have that set up, meeting with all of the applicants, emailing all of the applicants, I should say, who have yet to be able to be responded to, who have yet to be fulfilling who have yet to become citizens. The people who have yet to become citizens, who haven't been applied to, haven't been able to complete whatever it is that they're trying to thus far, we're going to reach out to those people and we're going to try to make sure that we understand their position. Some people apply and then they realize that we don't have dual micronational citizenship, for example. So they'll say, oh, well, I have my own micronation, so this won't work out. There are plenty of examples of things like that. So going through that list and just saying these are the people who we have already contacted, that we already know their response, we can just move forward with, so we don't have to deal with that. Once that happens, making sure that everybody who is new who comes in is just organized and identified and scheduled in that. But that's um, a good bit. That's maintenance. That's more of making sure that we can actively keep up with new things that come in. I'm hoping there's not a lot of backlogged things that haven't been responded to. There may be a few, again, but I don't think there should be many. Um, I think there's one that is legitimately like a joke application. So that would be one that I didn't reach out to them, and I don't think it's necessary to reach out. I don't think the email address exists, but it's um, there are very few, if any, that haven't been already accounted for, or at least initially reached out to. Once we have all that set up, once we have you guys in a position where you've taken over, you have all these emails, you have everything designed to continue to achieve pulling in more citizens, the biggest question ultimately there is then that step 3 really. Um, how many citizens are we trying to pull in? If every citizen meets their citizenship requirements, that's great and it's going to help us. So why not? The only larger question there would be when we're actually getting citizens to be a part of other positions, whether they're government positions, whether they're trying to achieve specific goals at the houses. If the House of Others says, hey, we want to get more citizens so that we can put them toward this cultural endeavor or this political endeavor, that would be something that we would want to account for and to understand. That way, once we reach the point where we are finally submitting our business license to be an LLC, to be identified as an LLC in the U.S. government, once we are continuing to move forward with certain legal understandings of how we can and can't operate with our citizens, that we don't have to backtrack and like cut a lot of positions that aren't allowed or aren't applicable anymore. So trying to plan and figure those things out before we implement those positions, I think, is important. So once we go through, reach out to these citizens and start moving people through that process, then the final thing to do is to create goals that we're specifically putting those citizens toward. What are the things that we're missing? What are the things that already have holes in them that we need to boost? And what are things that we're trying to create that will need people in them? What's the best way to continue that maintenance? What's the most effective way, most stable way for us to grow? How can we use new resources without getting more resources than we can handle, if that makes sense? More citizens than we can deal with. Also, Nathan, it sounded like you might have been saying something at some point. Makes sense. It seemed like Gray jumped out. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. We have a whole bunch of people jumped in. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us today as well. This was something that I hope can be I hope that can be beneficial for other micronations and people out there trying to learn about this and trying to see how we operate. We of course want it to be something that's fairly transparent. So I want people to be able to be encouraged to ask us questions about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I appreciate you, Nathan, for helping out in that regard. I feel like I understand a lot more about sort of what the expectations were for this and how it can be refined. And I also feel like you were able to point out successfully a good number of the places that I hadn't thought of that needed to be answered as we move through this. And the same thing with Gray. So yeah, I think that's pretty solid. Um, I just want to make sure that I readdress and re-ask. Um, are there any other questions? Are there any things that anyone feels dissatisfied by, or that they feel like wasn't understood, or even things that may apply that I haven't talked about? So Gray asked, initially this was to be a training meeting for the House of Others on how to log in new citizens, and have the training will need to log them into the system. Can we move into that training? So he asked that earlier. Again, I feel like that's fairly accurate to what we were trying to do today, is explaining what that is and the reasons for it, and then to be able to say this is all pre-set up. All we have to do is to continue to accept those people, move them through this process that we have, making sure they meet those requirements, accepting them, giving them their citizenship license, and putting them towards some specific um, goal or endeavor that we have pre-planned, pre-assigned, pre-approved. White Wind says currently the government in White Wind is 2% fascism, 43% republic, 54% monarchy. Interesting. Vish Stern says in a micronation both near and far. I'm a micronation both near and far to Blazetopia. Interesting. White Wind says banned government's popularity, uh, communism 100%. Oh, interesting. Saul says greetings again from the United Confederation of Solicita. Maybe so. Like I think there are a number of gay communists. Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. Caden Republic says, are there any discords ex external for micronations that you would recommend? Yeah, so we have ours, which a lot of people from a lot of different micronations join. We actually have it in the description, so if you want to click on the link there, you can become a part of it. Glorious Empire White One says, all right, now I need to ask my mom if I could repay her $65 for 50 Imperial notes and a medal. Hey, I appreciate you, White One. If you did, you would be hard competing with Master Dionite, who just became our third top tier aristocrat. So that would be interesting. It'd be an interesting competition. Caden says, okay, gotta go bye. Good to see you, Caden. Aiden said, founder of Vistern here. Hey, good to see you, Aiden. White One says, oop, welcome, Vistern. Wow, I actually spelled that right first try. Aiden says, hello, glorious Empire of White One. 6 people watching, now 5. Yeah, we have 6 people, and I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, I think we've pretty much covered what we needed to cover. Nathan, do you feel like there's anything else you want to add, or anything else that um, you feel like should be talked about? Okay, fantastic. Well, I appreciate everybody. I think we've answered all the questions in the chat as well. Ooh, White One says time to go for 55 Imperial notes. I appreciate you be competing with Leanna at that point. Um, yeah, and so we are hanging out. I appreciate everybody. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We had not a government meeting really tonight, but more of this training, and I hope it's helpful. I hope it benefits people, and I hope it's at least educational about what we're doing and what we're thinking about and how we're going about things. So, in that case, I hope everybody has a good night. Thank you so much for being here, Nathan. You stayed through the whole thing. That means a lot. I appreciate Gray. I know he had to go early, but it's definitely important that he was able to participate and that he was able to sort of refine what uh, what I was trying to describe, and to be able to use that um, for what he needs, and to be able to teach me more of what he needs, and Steve, excuse me, Nathan, what you need to be able to move forward. So thank you both. I appreciate it, and thank you to everyone watching. Um, I think we could go ahead and end it. Hope you have a good night.